Next Chapter Podcasts.
Hello, my little trauma club, my everybodies. I'm kicking things off with a very special announcement. Are you sitting down? Everybody Knows But Me is having its first ever live stand-up show on Thursday, July 16th in Los Angeles. It's at the Upright Citizens Brigade Theater in Hollywood, and tickets are available now. And if you've been listening to the podcast, then you know UCB holds a very special place in my heart to do our first ever live show. The show is called The Fucked Up Family Hour, and it's a night of stand-up comedy about generational trauma, family secrets, and the people we love who really fucking screwed us up. Along with some incredible comedians, I'll be headlining with even more insane family stories that, unfortunately, are in fact all true. For tickets, head to ucbcomedy.com or my Instagram at Holly Brown Comedy. That's Thursday, July 16th at the Upright Citizens Brigade Theater in Hollywood. And if you're coming, let me know. I would love to say hi. When I started making this podcast, I felt incredibly alone. Not because I didn't have support. You've heard how close I am with Casey and Carson, and my husband, Brad, has been by my side through every second of this. But when you spend your life on stage, you become very aware of the assumptions people make about you. And that applies to offstage too. People think they know you because they know the version of you who can joke about OCD or talk about family trauma, because you must have already processed it enough to turn it into a bit. They don't see the years before that, when you were living through experiences that seem impossible to explain, while wondering whether anyone would even believe you if you tried. After my mom died, I realized something I hadn't really let myself fully admit I wanted. I was never going to get the conversation I'd secretly hoped for. The one where my parents looked at me and said, "We know. We understand what happened to you. We understand what we put you through." I'd long chosen to love both of my parents so deeply, despite everything. But there was still a part of me that wanted someone to tell me I wasn't crazy for reacting the way I did. And that's a lonely place to be. I wanted someone to look at the honorary black sheep of the family, the kid who got arrested for shoplifting school clothes, illegally entered Canada, aka ran away to Canada. Uh-oh, another detail of the Canada story. I wanted them to see the girl who didn't drink, didn't do drugs, but did have intense outward struggles with her mental health. And then have them say, "Yeah, that makes sense. It wasn't your fault. We know you were trying your best." So, I made this. I told my family everything. I filled in the gaps. I gained 2 whole brothers. I started brand new relationships with people I'd wondered about my entire life. Friends started calling me saying, "Girl, we need to talk." Family members started sharing stories they'd never told me before. Now, at this point, I bet some of you are thinking, okay, yeah. Can you get back to the cliff you left us hanging off of last time, where you said you only had one last thing to do? Also, by the way, no sitcom scene at the top of the show? What in God's name is going on here? To that I say, you're absolutely right. We're barreling towards the end of the line here, full steam ahead. But the thing is, what you may not realize is that this podcast isn't going to end with my story. Oh yeah, another big reveal. We've got big plans for season 2, including a Patreon that'll give you a chance to help support us making this dang show. More on that later, though. Because the thing that's been the quickest shortcut to feeling less alone, that has stopped me from now and then breaking the fourth wall Ferris Bueller style.
Life moves pretty fast.
And I wish it would move faster, am I right? is the unexpected door you open when you're totally honest about the weirdest parts of your life.
Well, I thought about that. I said, what if when I was in high school, I suddenly find out, I have other siblings by my dad. I don't even know what that would have done.
It was...
That's a shock.
Yeah, it's not a usual circumstance. Actually, surprisingly common now that I'm sharing the story with people. You hear a lot of those kinds of stories, more than you expect.
Turns out the quickest way to stop screaming into the abyss is to meet the people already standing in it, waving right back at you. So, before we get to the rest of my story, before we find out how my family reacted after hearing all of this, by the way, I genuinely don't know yet. I'm writing this before we've had that conversation. But before we hear what the brothers I just met thought about me making this podcast, and before I figure out what the HE double hockey sticks comes next.
Oh, what language! My ears are burning.
I wanted to share a few of the stories that made me realize maybe my life wasn't written for some bizarre TV show absolutely no one else had ever seen. Maybe there are just a lot more people in this cast than I ever imagined. And that's why you might have noticed that over the course of the last 8 episodes, I've kept asking you guys to send me your stories. And boy, have there ever been some really astounding ones that have hit our inbox. Take listener Carrie, who reminded me that stories of secret families can go back generation after generation. And yet, hearing them will always manage to stop me in my tracks. See, Carrie's grandmother, Dahlia, was married to her grandfather, Dick. And yes, unfortunately, his name was also a personality trait. Dahlia and Dick had one daughter, Carrie's mom. Now, Dick and Dahlia also had another couple they were incredibly close with, Anne and her husband, who, just to make this story as confusing as humanly possible, was also named Dick. 2 Dicks! Great start. At some point, Grandpa Dick pushed Dahlia down a flight of stairs in an attempt to kill her. Classic 1960s marriage stuff. And if it sounds brutal to say it like that, don't worry. Carrie had just as much of a sense of humor in sharing all of these details as I have with mine. Anyway, Dahlia survived, divorced him, and because this was the era where apparently everyone had their priorities in order, she was effectively kicked out of the Catholic Church for getting divorced. Meanwhile, her daughter, listener Carrie's mom, was beaten by nuns because she was the child of divorced parents. Jesus Christ! No, seriously, I thought JC was supposed to be all about love.
Now that's religion.
So after the divorce, Grandpa Dick stayed single. Or so everyone thought. Years later, the other family friend, that Dick, died. And his wife, Anne, became a widow. And then, completely out of nowhere, Anne married Grandpa Dick. A dick swap! Except, it turned out this wasn't some late-in-life romance. They'd actually been having an affair for decades. An affair that produced 2 daughters. Meaning, Carrie's mom eventually discovered that 2 women she'd always known as family friends were actually her sisters. And the secret finally came out during, you guessed it, a deathbed confession. Another secret family classic. Grandpa Dick was dying in the hospital when he took one of those daughters' hands and told her he was glad she'd had another man to raise her. Yowza. Carrie, I get it. After that, for our listener Carrie, decades of decisions made perfect sense. Why Anne married Grandpa Dick after her husband died. Why everybody behaved the way they did. Why there always seemed to be something just slightly off. Because once you know the secret, you start seeing the entire story differently. Thank you, Carrie, you hilarious badass, for submitting that truly unhinged family story. Lest we forget, people have been dealing with these kinds of shenanigans long before mine. Carrie ended her email by saying something that immediately felt relatable as hell. She told me she uses her aforementioned sense of humor to deflect. Now, that is a trauma club kid if I've ever met one. It also made me wonder why so many of us do that. Why some people seem almost wired to take the worst thing that's ever happened to them and somehow turn it into the funniest story you've ever heard. So I sat down for a quick chat with someone who's made a career out of balancing those two very things. Prolific stand-up comedian, writer, actor, and casual little flex here, former executive producer of The Simpsons, where he worked on more than 100 episodes, Dana Gould. He's also the creator of IFC's cult hit Stan Against Evil, a show inspired in part by his own father. Oh, and because Hollywood is hilariously small, Stan Against Evil also features an appearance by Valerie Tossi, the actress who plays my mom in the sitcom retellings of my life that are usually at the start of every episode. We talked about what it means to turn pain into comedy, whether we realize we're doing it at the time, and why some of the funniest people you've ever met also happen to be carrying around some of the heaviest stories. From Next Chapter Podcasts and Companion Arts, this is Everybody Knows But Me, Episode 9, the one with Dana Gould's fictional father. I kind of wanted to start with, because one of the things I'm doing is using sitcoms to create the world I always wanted. And,
sure, yeah, I get that, yeah.
I watched that growing up to lose myself in them desperately and be like, God damn, I wish my only problem is that my parents found a cigarette in my room. Not, and then I would just eat it and be like, it's gone. And so one of the things that's like, I've been living in the sitcom world so much that I wanted to ask you, is there a sitcom world that if you could choose to live in, that you would want to live in most?
Well, I would have to say the one that I did live in was The Odd Couple. That was my childhood of being a really weird OCD.
Do you have OCD?
Well, no, I don't have it. It's not been diagnosed, but I grew up in a house full of chaos.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody was drunk. Everybody. And I didn't drink. I was also I'm talking about I was 9, 10, 11.
Yeah.
I never did, but so I needed to create order, and I was just constantly cleaning up because nobody was.
Yeah.
And I was just trying to have some kind of order. And so I always related to The Odd Couple of just Felix constantly walking around, picking up, cleaning up after Oscar. In terms of the world that I would live in, I would have to say the world of Stan Against Evil is sort of the world that I wanted to live in because it's one I made. So I was like, I live in that one.
You had a unique opportunity to make the world,
right,
which is what I'm trying to do now. And
sure.
And I love how yours is so you. Like yours is obviously blends those genres.
Yeah, but you can't escape that. That's what I'm learning every day that I work is that wherever you go, there you are. And that means creatively too. What I'm starting, the idea that I'm working on now started off nothing to do with me. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, it's me.
When did it become you? Did you know it was happening or was it a moment that you said, oh,
no, as you get into it and the onion peels, you go, oh, there it is.
Damn. I mean, I relate to that so much even when you think you're processing something, I feel like I'm writing an entire podcast to process something.
Right.
Fully knowing that I'll think I close
it will help you.
It will help. Like they always help.
I did a one-man show in the early 90s called Insomnia about when I first kind of crashed out. Mm-hmm. And it absolutely helped. Yeah. It closed a huge...
I'm so curious about this one-man show. I'm not going to lie. I was talking to Candace about it, our mutual friend. And because I actually, on the podcast, I detail that I tried to commit suicide.
Sure.
And then something that the podcast listeners don't know, but they find out now is your girl tried again. She was like, I didn't get it right. So I tried again, and part of that was a lack of sleep induced.
Yeah.
I went months without sleeping, and I felt like I was going insane.
Oh, you were. And I say that from experience.
Yeah. So it just and instantly I wanted to learn more about this and at what point, because I remember being in the mental hospital, and as I'm like seeing, there was there's certain things that I think are so funny that some people might not. Being in the mental hospital, there was like a schizophrenic gambling addict, which I thought was hilarious because he kept making bets against himself. And he was still losing. And I was like, buddy, like you could win this.
Yeah. There are so many great stories of crazy people.
I know. But then it's like AA where the anonymity, you don't want to reveal that. But I just remember so distinctly being in there. And I'm like, girl, this is your second time. Yeah. If you don't get stand-up material out of this, you should kill yourself. Like,
I know.
Did you have that feeling?
Sure. Oh, yeah. No, I mean, there was a period of time. There were a couple of periods of time in my life where my goal in the morning was just to get to midnight. Really? I just have to get to midnight and then I can reset the clock. Mm-hmm. But I can't go any further than that. And this was, one of them was when I was a complete train wreck. Another one was after years of therapy. And, in the middle of my divorce and, when my sort of life, the ground under my feet was no longer safe. Mm-hmm. It was just like, I just have to get to tomorrow. I just have to get to tomorrow. And what that does is, there's a stability. If you can stay stable and just keep showing up, to use a expression, the world around you changes. Sometimes it's like chasing a horse on a merry-go-round. Mm-hmm. If you just get off the merry-go-round and stay there and don't do anything, but don't die, the horse will come around. Mm-hmm. And that's a lesson that you learn the hard way.
Yeah. But you made a whole show about it.
Yeah, that was in 1991 or 2. I had the first time I had a little crash out in September of 1991 where I started having panic attacks. Mm-hmm. And then, and I'd never had one before and I didn't understand what was going on. And then, and insomnia had always dogged me. Mm-hmm. And I did a one-man show about it. And it was really about the first time I realized that I wasn't okay.
In the broader sense of childhood coming up.
And that, all of those things that I took for granted as that it wasn't me. Mm. And this sound, I don't know if you can relate to this. I had to parent myself. Yeah. Yeah. And I was a lousy parent.
I should have read a few books. How could you?
Yeah. But and the thing that healed that really in terms of like my day-to-day functioning and stuff. I mean, on an intellectual level, it's always there because you are who you are. Mm-hmm. But in terms of my happiness and my sanity, having kids heal that. Wow. Correcting that.
Hey, everybody knows heads, my everybody's, my little trauma club. Time for a little channel surfing to show you a glimpse of another podcast I think you'll love. Here you go.
Crime Writers On is the podcast where authors and journalists talk about the latest true crime series, documentaries, and podcasts.
We talk about what's on the charts and find those up-and-coming podcasts that you'll be talking about.
It's like a fun and smart book club discussing what makes good storytelling and teaching how to become a critical listener.
Or not. And stick around for the Crime Writers Thumbs Up, Thumbs Down reviews.
It's the original true crime review podcast. Crime Writers On, wherever you get your podcasts.
Like probably right here.
Now back to the main show. I've always wondered that. I'm not going to lie. I feel the exact same way. Definitely parented myself. Yeah. Both my parents were addicts.
Yeah.
And so when you say you had a drunk household, I'm like, oh boy, do I relate.
Yeah.
And
because addicts, people don't realize it's not just that they're not present in the moment. Mm-hmm. It's that they are the age at which they became addicts.
Yeah.
You know, my parents are both 15, 16 years old.
When they started using?
Drinking.
Yeah.
And that was the maturity level that we had to contend with when they were in their 30s and 40s and 50s.
And even if they start later, it's their brain is reverting back to a space, you
Right.
know, it causes them to go back in time.
Yeah.
And I definitely relate to parenting yourself. And also you're parenting your parents. So it's not, you're taking care of yourself, you're taking care of the parents.
Yeah.
And so you that was starting to come up for you before this one man
Sure.
show.
Well, no, what the first one, Insomnia, that I talk about was just, my body said, like, I wasn't dealing with the things that were wrong in me because I was a comedian and I was able to process that stuff on stage and be rewarded for it, you know?
Yeah.
And what I learned was you don't have to be miserable to be creative. Actually, it helps if you're not, because it's not like that color is going to leave your palette, but you can be happy and just go to that place creatively.
Yeah.
You don't have to live it.
That's so interesting. I love what you just said about you're getting rewarded. And so imagine your brain internalizes laughter and applause as I did that. I made the joke about the bad thing.
Right.
Everyone's on the same page about it.
And money.
Yeah. And you're getting
People
money.
are throwing money at me.
And you're like, I'm a therapist now. People are giving me money for my problems.
Right.
And at what point did you like realize that you weren't processing? Because I think that's so interesting from an audience and a comedian's perspective. Like, I think in order to even get the audience to laugh, in a way, you have to have processed it more than not.
Sure.
But doesn't mean that you're done, because you also can't, in my opinion, I don't feel like you can tell the audience, you can't give the audience everything. It's probably too much.
Sure.
You kind of have to wade between the lines of what the audience is capable of understanding versus what my lived experience is. Because everyone has
100%
sliding scale of like, if the worst thing that ever happened to them was, listen, don't hate me for saying this, if the worst thing that ever happened to you was your parents getting divorced, you're going to have a different reality than someone else that has had that plus.
Sure.
And so it is like a puzzle, you know, that you're organizing to create these jokes. And then at the end of the day, you might not even be processing.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like there's you on stage and you off stage. And you're getting rewarded on stage for this stuff, but you don't have to live it when you get off stage. And that was what that first sort of creative burst of that show was about. And I think now that show is incredibly cringe.
Think why?
It's so naked and it's so raw. And I'm only 26. It's like I haven't really figured it out yet. But it was really, to use terms from sobriety, that it was describing rock bottom. It was the point where like what I was doing, the way I was living my life, the way I was parenting myself was no longer viable because my body said, I'm done. This doesn't work.
Yes.
I'm done. And if going on stage is the way that you are pimping me out, I will prevent you from going on stage because that's where I had a panic attack. I had a panic attack at 5 minutes into an hour-long set on a night when I had 3 hour-long shows. It was the 90s. We worked a lot more. And my body
said,
an
hour? How many minutes is that? What?
Yeah. And my body said, no, we're not going to do it. And I was like agoraphobic for a week and I had to kind of pick myself up and put myself back together. And then, you know, that was the first stage. And then in a couple years later, it happened again because I wasn't finished. And then I kind of became functional. And as I say, and you know, I was 29 the second time I kind of crashed out. And that was the real 11 days without sleep. And I meet people, I say this as a joke, but it's true. I meet people that knew me before I was 30 and I just blanket apology. I'm sorry. Sorry for who I was.
I might be utilizing that soon.
Yeah, I'm sorry for who I was.
Yeah, it's such a different the saying is like, in your 30s, you really find yourself. And I'm like, I hate that that's right. But it's not right because it's always the 30s necessarily. There's different reasons people get there.
It depends on, that's not true. It can be, I know people that find themselves in their 40s, 50s, 60s,
Yes, exactly. Like for me, I feel like the reason I was able to find myself was because both my parents died. Like it unburdened me from any responsibility I had to them anymore.
Yeah.
And it happened to be when I was 30. So in my 30s now, I'm finally able to be like, what does Holly need?
That's a really interesting thing. Who died first?
My dad died when I was 20 and my mom died when I was 30.
Okay. So you're very young.
It was a really fun decade, Dana.
Right. See, I see that as, and I guess and especially with your dad, because you hadn't resolved anything.
Right.
But in a way, was it freeing?
Really freeing.
Yeah.
Like, I would say that's the thing. I love talking to other people that have either dealt with grief or addiction or anything. When that thing is removed from your life, it's a very complicated relationship because you are so happy it's over and you're so happy. But there's also like, say somebody is an addict and they die from their addiction and there's this dual-sided grief. And you're like, I miss this person. I want them back more than anything, but God, is my life easier.
Right.
And so that's how I felt. Like, I finally felt like I could focus on my life, whereas before I didn't even know how much I was living my life for somebody else.
Right.
And I never would have, I don't think I would have known if she stayed alive. And that's the like morbid reality of trying to process that kind of grief is like, how do you say that kindly about someone you love?
I understand completely. It's funny. But my parents lived so long. My mom died when she was 89 and my dad's still alive. He's 95.
Holy cow.
Yeah. And they're still going. So I haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah.
It happened a lot with, I had a much closer relationship with my mother than I had with my father, and continue to have. But my mom didn't know who I was the last 5 years of her life. So it was, I kind of pre-grieved,
Yeah. But you parented.
And she had checked out long before that psychologically. Like her world didn't really go past the yard.
Gotcha. Oh, okay.
And so, I was in California, and
I feel like that could be a beautiful phrase for something. Her world didn't go past the yard.
Yeah.
Like it literally. But you parented yourself. You're talking about, and so like, what is that like to have your parents still around when you know you've parented yourself? What does the relationship become when you're now an adult parenting a child?
That's a great question. It's awkward.
Yeah.
I bought them a house so they could have a place to live. And I was the fifth of six.
Wow.
And I wasn't the one that was supposed to be the provider. And there's a lot of resentment.
But between your siblings and you from that? Wow.
Yeah. Not everybody, but some.
Interesting.
But some. Yeah. And I think my dad, but he's actually very good about it. Credit where credit is due. But yeah, there was a lot of, I live in California and they live in Massachusetts, and I can go home for 2 days.
And you have that built-in distance. That's really nice.
Right. And after 2 days, I'm like, okay, tomorrow we're leaving.
I feel like that's the beauty of family. You always just give yourself less time with them than you think you need. You think you want a week with them, don't do it.
Yeah, you always do.
Don't. Yes,
and then you get there,
gotta
like,
get the memories in. You're like, no. It turns out the best memories only happen in 2 days.
Well, there's magical thinking.
Yeah,
and then we'll be close again. You were never close.
No.
Yeah, but your parents all lived out here, so you never had distance from them. Did you ever live? You grew up in Southern California.
I did. Yeah.
And did you ever live anywhere else?
I didn't. I stayed at home. The first time I ever moved out was with my husband. And because when you're parenting your parent, how do you leave? Like, when it comes to the time of you leaving, I'm like, oh, this is what parents feel like when their kids go out of town, like to college. Now I'm the one leaving my mom, and she did die shortly after that. So there's this complicated feeling of if I had stayed, could I have saved her? Which is none of it is how that works, but you are going to feel it regardless. And you can only start to tell yourself that's not true, I think, when you've completely removed yourself from, and for me, that was loss. Through loss, I was able to start talking to myself differently.
Right. And you don't have that person that you're trying to finalize a negotiation with.
Yeah.
It's like it's over.
No, it's just me and my OCD.
Sure.
That's why when you said OCD earlier, I was like, I wonder if there's a through
I'm
line
sure I
there.
have it. I mean, I'm psychotically clean, in terms of like tidiness.
I feel like I'm allowed to anoint you with OCD if I want to, because
my wife is like has the it's like living with a 12-year-old boy. She just comes in, it's just a trail of clothes, open potato chip bags, and just like she's completely.
I'm curious what your experience with this is as somebody that also had, alcohol or substance in the house. There was a dynamic that became like the power dynamics shift at times for me. And so it was almost like because so much of my life had been mired in their addiction and really, frankly, ruined is a stretch, but really
colored,
very generous, fucked up by their addiction.
Right.
That the power dynamics sometimes flipped, where it was like, you can't be mad at me. Like, you're not allowed to tell me. You're not allowed to express possessiveness over me. You're not allowed to express any sadness over me wanting to do something for myself.
Yeah. I not only get that, it really was, that became evident to me in my first marriage. Because my ex-wife and her family were insanely close, actually, very close. And to the point that her parents moved out from New Jersey to live a mile from us.
Wow. Lucky you.
Well, if we had better boundaries, we'd probably still be married. And to me, it was so foreign. Mm-hmm. Because I had zero relation, it's just like I can do anything I want. One of my regrets is I didn't ask her father for permission to marry her because I didn't know that was a thing. Because no one ever told me.
Also, I don't think it should be a thing.
Well,
but I understand.
He's not going to say no. And if he says no, I'm going to say tough. But it's a nice tradition and it's a nice respectful. The point I was making is that no one ever taught me that. No one ever told me that.
Right. Of course.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Right.
Or I don't think, I was aware of it, but I wasn't aware of its importance.
Yeah.
And my father's attitude towards us is you can live here till you're 18 and then join the army.
That is so wild. That is not my parents were very like, stay here as long as you want, because also we are so sorry for the life we did to you.
Yeah.
But yours, so you had to get out when you're 18?
Well, I did. I left I left for freshman year of college and that was it.
Wow.
And, but had I not gone, I would have had to do something.
Wow.
And that's why I'm very, that's why stand-up is so important to me, not only as a creative outlet, but for the life it gave me, because it allowed me to do everything I wanted to do.
Man.
Do you find the control in stand-up to be something that is just...
Oh, perfect fit.
Like, yeah.
I'm talking. You don't talk now.
Yeah, I mean, you have a lot of siblings. Also...
I'm talking now.
Yeah.
I get all the attention. Thank you.
I love it. Like, I don't know about you. I did a lot of other, before stand-up, I did a lot of other, I dipped my toe into sketch, dipped my toe into improv, and did all that stuff. And I was like, well, something about this is not clicking. And then the second I did stand-up, and I was like, I in charge now? This is what I like. I don't have to rely on anyone else because I couldn't when I was a kid.
Right, yeah.
Why would I want to now and trust that could work out?
What were the things that gave you comfort as a well, I'm curious.
Well,
what were the things that gave you comfort as a kid?
I mean, sitcoms.
Okay, great.
Greatly gave me comfort. I think it reminded me of a time in which everything went wrong, when my dad was working,
right?
When my parents were together and happy, and sitcoms I just was obsessed with, and comedy in general. I mean, comedy in general, but sitcoms more specifically.
And the other, I don't know if this applies to you in terms of where did you watch them?
I mean, we had the family TV.
Right. But it was on
Yeah.
TV. It wasn't on your
Yes.
laptop. You
No.
were- right, okay.
I was definitely, you had to like catch the reruns on
Okay,
TV.
great. That's
Nick
perfect.
at Night.
Right.
Yeah.
Because the point I was going to make, and this is how I feel about shows that mean so much to me,
Mhm.
and they're not sitcoms, but like to me, it was Star Trek, Dark Shadows, The Night Stalker, that stuff. But it was dependable.
Yeah.
Star Trek was on every night at 6, and it would show up
Mhm.
on time
Mhm.
every night. It
Oh,
was
yeah.
not a variable.
Yeah.
It was not, if I'm lucky, Star Trek will be on. If Star Trek feels like being on, it'll be on. If it doesn't feel like being on, it's not going to be here.
Yeah. I know where my
And-
Star Trek, I'm getting my Star Trek.
Right. And that meant a lot to when you're in chaos,
Mhm.
that there are these pillars that are always going to be there.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
100%. Like the familiarity, for me, for sitcoms, it was like, I know they're going to figure it out at the end of this episode.
Right.
But like so dependable, so reliable, where I felt like they were my friends. And I wasn't worried about anything when I was in that moment. And they were also reliable in the sense that you could always find where to watch them. Even if they were, even if you're not catching it the night it's supposed to come out, they're on. You're going to be able to turn a channel on and find a sitcom.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
This summer, serve up the Cookout Classics, Oscar Mayer hot dogs and Heinz mustard. Grill up a dog, add classic yellow mustard, or loaded Chicago style. We all know it's not a cookout without Oscar Mayer and Heinz.
I wanted to actually pivot to talk about Stand Against Evil, if that's okay.
Sure.
I think I've been watching it here and there, but I wanted to rewatch it again because I know so many people that are on the show.
Yeah, I was going to say,
it's
you
a
probably
really
know
fun
half the-
experience to see
you
all
have
that.
to know half the names in the credits.
But what was that like? I'm so curious because I am in the middle of fielding my family and their reactions to the piece of art I'm making about them.
Right.
And obviously Stan is inspired by your dad.
Sure.
And how did he would he have
Utterly-
even know? Like the character of Stan, would he care at all?
Utterly oblivious.
Really?
Utterly oblivious.
No, he never would have put it together.
Yeah. I don't.
Wow.
I think my mom watched it.
Even though he's saying things that you exactly quoted from him for the show.
Yeah. It's also possible that he didn't even watch it.
Wow. How does that feel?
At this point,
Yeah.
it's fine. But yeah, no, I mean, I think for him, he can't, I mean, I don't think, I know. He can't go there. I don't think I think my dad looks at, because in my early career, I was on TV saying some really horrible things about them.
Oh, yeah.
And telling them, watch it, I'm on tonight. Utterly unplugged from any sense of their reaction to this, you know?
Wow.
And I think he learned early that he doesn't want to go there. And
Okay.
and I get in the same way that I don't want to know what's on my daughter's phone.
Yeah.
I don't want to see it.
I think my parents would have been fine with this thing that I'm doing, but my aunts and uncles, they're responding in real time. And I was just curious. You said you talked about your parents really early when you were doing stand-up.
Yeah.
I know I've seen so much of your material about your relationships. And like, have you ever gotten a reaction from somebody about a joke you've written?
Oh, God. Yeah, no, this is a huge thing. I was right out of the gate. I mean, I was very successful very early, for whatever reason. And I was on a big Showtime comedy festival, and I was 25, 26. Wow. And, you know, Bob Newhart was the host, and it was, you know, it was a big deal. And the bit I did was, it was like false. It was like, oh God, remember the holidays? Like those people that fondly remember things that were terrible. And then I like, remember mom coming out in the kitchen on Christmas Eve, half drunk on cooking sherry. And then she goes into this horrible tirade about her sex life with my father.
Oh, God.
Or the lack thereof, which was fictitious. But it was just like a horrible thing done lovingly. It was, you know, arty. And I said, watch me, I'm on TV, without thinking they're going to see this.
Yeah.
Never. I look back on it now because as my kids say or do things, they're in their early 20s. I'm like, yeah, of course. Think of all the wonderful decisions you made at that age.
I'm mortified. I'm like, I don't relate to that girl. I don't know who she is.
Yeah. And I was sitting on a plane because it was live. And I was sitting on a plane with a comedian named Larry Miller, if you know who Larry Miller is. And we're flying back from Montreal where the special was. And my dad said, I called him up. You see it? Yeah. I didn't care for what you did. Here's your mother. And I told Larry that. And Larry said, that is, go straight to the psychiatrist's office. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200.
Oh, no.
But yeah, of course that was his reaction.
Yeah.
Of course that was his reaction. And I was completely.
I mean, maybe one would argue you had to be oblivious to like test those waters and see where the line might be that you want to create.
Well, people that were raised by children that are adults, but emotionally, people that are dealing with an addiction don't have boundaries. And that was just, it's not only that I didn't have boundaries, I wasn't aware that boundaries were a thing.
Totally.
And that was just like, if I'd had an awareness, I would have gone like, don't do this.
Not having boundaries.
Or don't expect a positive reaction to it.
I think not having boundaries is like there's such a con and there's such a pro. And I feel like part of the pro, and I wonder if you experienced this as somebody that like dealt with so much addiction or neglect, is like I feel like I'm a pro at immediately getting to the hard stuff with people in a way that I am not trying to. I am not trying to do this.
Right.
But there's something recognizes in each other. Someone finds that safety in
game recognizes
lack of boundary game. And then we go deep and then like there's cons to that because then people feel way closer to you than you intended.
Sure. That happens too. Well, there's a weird bond with trauma bond.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you can trauma bond. Like that happens on stage. You say the right joke for the right person and they are instantly a fan for life.
Yes,
you just
I
spoke
get that.
To them and has anyone come up to you after a show and just like this specific joke?
Hundreds of times.
That is it? Do you find them to be the same joke or is it all different jokes? Not
all different.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I remember specifically a young woman coming up to me in San Francisco in the early 90s and just stunning. Like this stunning, beautiful woman, young girl, early 20s, going, oh man, do I relate to you? And showing me her scars on her wrists.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And I was like, well, I'm not there. Yeah, but I didn't say that, but that's why I was like, oh, wow.
Wow.
Thank you. Are you okay? But
yes, it is. It's like a bird. There's so many layers to that. It becomes a burden to be like, okay, now I am responsible
inside
in this
it was
moment.
like broken bird. I can fix.
Yeah. You're like, sign me up.
Yeah.
You're like, hey, do you want to buy that scar? Do you want my signature?
Yeah. Borderline personality. Get over here.
I'll take more personalities.
Yeah.
It's like a burden too when you have that no boundary thing because it's a pro of how quickly you can connect with somebody.
I had to learn the hard way. No, I mean, I say that like something bad happened. It didn't.
Right.
But I've had stalkers and I had over-enthusiastic fans or fans that think that because you talk about those things, think that they have a connection with you that they don't.
And that no one else has. But
right. And if you're married, it's like, no, we are not.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've had that a couple times and it's unfortunate.
But it's, I don't know. I would just argue, I think the lack of boundaries or the fluidity around boundaries is hard to navigate, but can be super rewarding. And I don't know if I'm right. I say a psychiatrist would hear that and be like, no, don't do that. I have boundaries. But I love how quickly I can get deep with somebody. And I love that they see that safety in me.
That's true. But you also, there's a sort of a rush to the center that you also need, because then it's awkward. It's like breakfast after a one night stand, So,
oh my God, Dana, that's good.
So, do you like sport.
Yeah.
You know?
Do you root for the home team,
Yeah.
which is, of course,
Yeah.
say it with me.
Yeah. Now that I've seen your butthole, who'd you vote for? You know?
I don't know. I think the mascot should change for Gritty.
Yeah. So that's also awkward.
Oh, that's such a good point. I mean, we trauma and comedy will never be separated, but
Right. No.
and I don't want them to be.
No. And when I think the best comedy comes from that. And, you know, when I was pitching Stand Against Evil, which is a horror comedy, I would have to say, like, no, screaming and laughing are very closely related. They are both involuntary reactions that reduce tension. And people scream and laugh in the same circumstance. If I'm scared, I'll laugh. My wife will scream, like going through a haunted house maze or on a roller coaster, or, you know, I laugh. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think not all comedy comes from that, but the comedy that makes me laugh the deepest. But what I did was with Stand Against Evil, I took the dark energy of it, and I found a way to channel that dark energy into a show that allowed me to have a sitcom exist in it.
Yeah.
But I still had blood, guts, and violence and emotional and heightened emotions in a way that was palatable to the audience because it was cloaked in the supernatural.
Yes. And just horror as a genre. People are, there's expectations within horror that are not the same expectations in sitcoms.
And I'll tell you this, I know a lot of comedians and I know a lot of people that work in horror because I'm in both camps pretty fully.
Totally.
10 times out of 10, 9 times out of 10, the people who work in horror are much more emotionally together than the people who work in comedy.
You find that they're more connected to, like,
they've just dealt with
reality.
They've dealt with their stuff.
Interesting.
They've dealt with their stuff, and they have a channel for it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like a lot of comedians, they look normal, but they'll, you know, cut your balls off. And then you get somebody that, you know, is all tatted up and his hair dyed black. And they're like, I love you, man.
Oh my God.
I love you. You know, they're just so much more together and present emotionally. Yeah. Not in every case, but in many, 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 many cases. Certainly the vast majority.
I mean, that's like the boundarylessness of a life of like horror. If you have the life of horror, if you have the life of chaos, and then you want to go into horror, you kind of have to experience the horror itself in order to be able to share it with the world the same way you do with comedy. You're like, okay, in order for me to share comedy, I kind of have to be processing the thing, but in a different lens.
Right.
And horror, you have to process it in like such a different lens. Yeah, I love like Stand Against Evil. Just it reminded me. That's part of like the main reason I wanted to talk to you. And I'm so glad we're able to do this because it's what I'm trying to do with this show. It's like it's so trauma heavy. It is so sad. Objectively, I'm sorry, everybody that listened. It's so sad. And then if I don't make you laugh in it, I won't feel good about myself. Like I need to live in both zones, and it is hard. And I've like the way that you were able to do that in Stand Against Evil is something that I'm like, how can I apply that outside of horror? Like, how can I take?
And you can do it. It's just, you have to laugh at yourself and just be honest, and it will resonate with people. You know, one of a movie that I'm fascinated by films or books or songs or whatever that were ahead of their time. Like they're better now than they were 20 years ago because people have been able to sit with them and ingest them, you know? And the one the one that I come back to the most is the film Twin Peaks Fire Walk With Me.
Okay.
Which is a crazy dark, I'm just assuming you've seen it.
I haven't seen it. No.
It's drenched in drama and a really dark stuff. Really dark stuff. And when it came out, people hated it.
Really?
Yeah, hated it. It was in and out of the theaters in 2 weeks.
Whoa.
and made $4 million on a $10 million budget. And, but now it's considered a classic. It's a Criterion release because people were able to sit with it, realize what it was about, accept it, and also get it out of the shadow of the TV series, which is what it was at the time, which is a different animal. And if you look at the other movies that came out at that time that were much more successful, but they're not important the way that movie is, you know. I think this came out years later, but it was stuff like Honeymoon in Vegas. You know, it's like, great movie, really fun, but it's not a Criterion release. It's not something that is still, you know, showing at the New Beverly or showing at the Vista or, you know, Lynch particularly is somebody that deals in all of these things unapologetically. And if people don't like it, they're free to not like it. You know, but that stuff stays. That stuff sticks around because it's got nutrition in it. It's nutritious. It's not just packing material.
I feel like your work is, especially some of the stuff you've done in the past 10 years, it's like, it feels ahead of its time. It feels like people are going to be coming back to it.
Hopefully,
and
yeah.
Looking at it. And I feel like that maybe that speaks to your taste too, like you're saying, of the things that you liked when you were younger. And you liked the things at the time, so you're not trying to look at this thing and be like, this is ahead of its time, therefore I'm going to get in on it now.
Oh yeah, sure. No,
you're just speaking your own sensibilities, and they just happen to be ahead of its time.
And the merry-go-round will come around.
Exactly.
Yeah, the horse comes around.
Beautiful.
Dana perfectly captured what making this show has felt like. Taking the absolute hardest moments of my life, turning them into something entertaining, and somehow finding this wonderfully weird cult of people who get it. Our conversation also gave you a little tease at what to expect from Everybody Knows But Me Season 2. More stories from other people who got put through the ringer by their parents, plus more shocking family secrets, and came out the other side at least somewhat whole. Next week, I sit down with the aunts you've heard throughout this series and finally hear what they've made of this whole sitcom retelling of my very, very fucked up life. They've been processing these stories week after week, right alongside all of you. I met my brothers. I finally did the thing I know they'd been hoping I'd do for years, even without understanding why I hadn't done it yet. After all, it's a lot easier to imagine the happy ending when you weren't the one the secret was kept from. So, what does my family think of me after hearing this story? What do my brothers think of this podcast? And after all of this, what do I think of me now?
I glanced out at the doorway as she slid up to the bar. Her hair was black, her skin was pale, her lips were red and one was scarred. She said, I'll have a shot and then a beer, and what's your sign, and do you have drugs, dear, and where'd you park your car?
Everybody Knows But Me is a production of Companion Arts and Next Chapter Podcasts. This episode was written by me, Holly Brown. Our lead producer is Pete Musto. Our associate producer is Ilana Nevins. Editing, sound design, music supervision, and original theme composition by Kyle Murdock. Our show artwork was created by Aaron Hill. Our videographer is Dalton Polivka. Our video editor is Alex Musto. Our animator is Justin Cortese. Our marketing team is TINK Media. Our executive producers are Jeremiah Tittle and me, Holly Brown. New episodes of Everybody Knows But Me come out every Wednesday. Follow the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, youtube.com/@everybodyknowspodcast, or wherever you get great content like ours. Also, do you have a story of family secrets or darkly funny drama that you want to share? We want to hear it. Email us at everybodyknowspod@gmail.com. And make sure you leave us a rating, review, or drop a dang comment telling us what you think about the show. Follow me at Holly Brown Comedy and the show on all social media at Everybody Knows But Me. And come back next week to find out what crazy hijinks the Brown family is in for on our last episode of Season 1, and hear more of the stories we tell ourselves to survive.
I don't know, I've seen some weird ones. brings a wolf a piece or two. American Express card doesn't mean you're not a ghoul. Monsters like their cheesecake. Oh, monsters like their cheesecake. Monsters like their cheesecake too.
Next Chapter Podcasts.